Spy Kids especially has been one that has been very special to us.
Really? Well, you all grew up with it?
100%.
We did, yeah,
It means the
absolutely.
world to us.
That's why I wanted to make another one after these years, because I meet, over the years I started meeting people who were like in college who had seen it when they were a kid, but then now I'm meeting parents who have little kids they grew up with it. So it's like, now's the time to have that full circle legacy moment where a parent can show their kid the movie that they watched when they were kids, the new version.
We are so grateful for you sharing your time with us on the Movie Podcast today. We absolutely adore your films. And Spy Kids especially has been one that has been very special to us.
Really? Well, you all grew up with it?
100%.
We did, yeah,
It means the
absolutely.
world to us.
That's why I wanted to make another one after these years, because I meet, over the years I started meeting people who were like in college who had seen it when they were a kid, but then now I'm meeting parents who have little kids they grew up with it. So it's like, now's the time to have that full circle legacy moment where a parent can show their kid the movie that they watched when they were kids, the new version, and have it be made by the same people so that it's like, oh yeah, I recognize that, and I know that this is new, so it's fun to have that really special legacy moment where they can. I feel that with my movies because my kids were, been working on these since they could crawl, and now they're the age I was when I made Mariachi and Desperado.
Wow, that's crazy.
It blows my mind, and now they're full-blown contributors like I would have been at that age. Like one's the composer, one's the co-writer, one's the co-editor, one's designing the video game. My kids actually designed that video game as a game to be an independent game, and we ended up just dropping it in the movie. Just wild, full circle stuff that I wanted to share with other families, make them really clock how much time has passed.
Oh my God, absolutely. And it's funny, earlier this year, we had a chance to speak with Cheech Marin on the show. And one of the things that we kind of talked to him about was this very special moment from the first film where whenever, especially with Daniel and I, whenever there's a moment where we're kind of stressed out and we just need to kind of pull back a little bit, we'll both just kind of look at each other, we'll pull off our fake mustaches, and we'll just say, "I'm not your uncle." And so, God, thank you so much for that line, because it's such a good moment in the movie.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Thanks. I appreciate that. I got that from growing up. My dad, I had so many uncles. I mean, I literally have a lot of uncles because my dad's one of 11 kids. So I had 7 uncles just on his side. But then there were uncles that he would just call our uncle, but they weren't our uncle. They were just business partners of his. And he would say, "Oh, here's your Uncle Bud, and here's your Uncle Jimmy, and then we'd find out later they weren't really our uncles. He would just call them our uncle. So that's where that came from. That I'm not your uncle. He just works with them. He's like, "Okay, but take it to the next level of being fine." He actually wears a fake mustache.
That's awesome. That's so good.
God, it's just a moment that no matter how many times we watch that movie, and I feel like we're approaching the thousands at this point.
Yes.
That it always hits, and especially that first Spy Kids scene in theaters and having those memories of it. I got asked while we're talking about that first Spy Kids film. We need to know, does the third brain still live?
Oh my God. I was just thinking that just now. It's like, I should have brought the third brain down. It's upstairs. I'll bring it down. Before we hang off, it's okay if we're late for the next one. You got to see the third brain. Have the third brain. Yes, the third brain lives. The third brain originates from, it's a saying I used to say to my family. It's like, 'cause I would stay up all night. I would just work at night. That's when I would make the Spy Kid movies at night. My kids would go to sleep. And I would work all night, and I would see them at breakfast. Then I would sleep while they were at school. So they never saw me work. They didn't even know I made Spy Kids out of my garage.
Wow.
I told them at the end, they never saw me working. So I would say at night, when it's around 3 or 4 a.m., that's when the imagination really kicks in. I said, that's when you find that third brain that solves all those problems. So I always liked working at night because it seemed like I had 3 brains.
It's very cool. Now, you mentioned at the beginning that you've been working with your kids since they could crawl, and I'm sure you've had such a huge influence on them creatively and through so many other things. I'm curious, for you, what influence have they had on you in your work?
The mentorship goes both ways. That's what's so great. I tell parents, I stumbled upon this by accident, but stop parenting at a certain point and start partnering, because they don't need a parent. After they're like 13, they don't need somebody just like worried about them. They want a mentor. They want an Obi-Wan. They want somebody that can be like, yeah, show me how to, that relationship will last much longer. And so I started partnering with them and thinking I was mentoring them, and they were teaching me all kinds of stuff. Like I said, they're the age I was when I was coming up with Mariachi and how to shoot a movie that no one had done before. That's the ripe age where even younger than that, they're already coming up with such great ideas. So it's a full circle of learning. And you see that in the movie. The parents are reliant on the kids to solve just about everything because kids are tech savvy and have such new ideas. They go to the parents and say, wait, how did you solve Operation Fireball? Yeah, that's not how you would do it today. And they go remix the whole thing and they like come up with a much better solve. So I wanted that to constantly be the theme, that we kind of tend to ignore kids, but they're kids about to be adults, and how you raise them is everything. How you empower them to be the next people who are going to solve all the problems is everything. So I've learned so much from them, and that's why I keep them by my side. I mean, I would literally go to my son and say, who co-wrote the script with me, I've been looking at these lines and I really don't think they should say this. I don't think that's in their character to say this. And he'd be like, okay, yeah, you wrote that. And last week you said you were going to do this, and that. I did? When? I was like, oh my God, I need these guys more than ever. And I was like, of course, I used to be that sharp at that age. It's like they got that young blood and they're on fire creatively, and they can just, I just learned so much from them. So I would throw the question the other way. It's like, what am I teaching them anymore? They're just all teaching me now.
That's amazing. It's so funny. And I love that you mentioned that theme in the film, that the parents learn just as much, from their kids in this, and just the way they approach problems, and just instead of violence first, let's approach from a different spot. Let's approach with kindness first. And I think in a world where we're getting a lot of the opposite of that, it's nice to have, a family that approaches things like, let's approach this with kindness first. Let's approach this without violence first. And you get a very different result. And I like that we got to see this in this film.
Thanks. I really feel it's important to dramatize these ideas that, you can tell a kid all you want, well, you should be honest. And it's like, oh, I don't know. Actually, when I cheat at this game, I get much further. And if you dramatize it to where you see like, yeah, at first you will, but in the long run, you won't. If you dramatize that, they can see much better, and the lesson goes down a lot better. So I think it's cool to make, especially kids rewatch these movies a lot. They see how, wow, she really looked like she's not going to get very far in the spy business, because the whole book says you got to be dishonest to be a spy. She rewrites the book by the end. So it's kind of cool that they all come around and like, she solved the problem. She got the bad guy and not even catch him and beat him. She turned him around and turned him into an ally. So, our ways can't be that wrong. So it's really fun to remind parents and that to look out for that part of your child that no longer needs you and is out there to teach you and just needs your guidance and learn together. Because you're not going to have all the answers.
And I have to imagine you weren't thinking about it back then. Maybe you were, but did you ever imagine that, almost 20 years later, you'd be making sequels to this film that like you created? Did you ever think that Spy Kids would like still to this day have the world's like just, by the grip? Like everyone loves it.
I always hoped, I thought it was considered a classic pretty quickly. But people weren't making movies like that live action anymore. They were doing animation a lot more for families. And live action, when done like this, I remember growing up with a movie called Escape from Witch Mountain. It was a little brother and sister that had they could like float, or one had telekinesis or something. And my sister and I played that forever. We pretended we were like that. So I wanted to make a movie like that really made siblings bond together more, and that was an adventure and was empowering and wish fulfilling and imaginative. And I thought maybe we could keep bringing it back, but I didn't think we'd be bringing it back at a level now that's far surpasses the originals. The visual effects in this is just off the charts. I mean, it only needed to look like a video game that they go into. Now it looks real.
Yeah.
I mean, I never had that level of effects before, but it's the power of, Netflix knows how these movies perform, and they gave us a much bigger budget than we would have ever had on the older movies to realize the actual vision that we had. We always came very far from the vision we had in those movies, quality-wise, to make it look as big as it did. It works for a children's film, but now it really looks awesome. I really like how immersive it is for adults and kids.
Yeah, very immersive. And you got to wonder, and I'm not sure if we missed it when we were watching it, but does this also take place in the same world? Because, what are Carmen and Juni up to right now?
Yeah, what are they up to? Well, the idea was, I thought since it had been so long, and after I did We Could Be Heroes, I thought I didn't want to do a direct sequel to the other movies. I thought let's just reestablish a new family. Let's just reboot it, and in a success, we can always bring back, because there are some clues that it's part of the same world, but what would they be up to? And so I would love to do something where we bring legacy characters back. We're now bridging the original audience with the new audience with this film and this timing, so you could in success. That's the dream. So people watch enough that. But We Can Be Heroes was like a brand new film. It didn't have any pre-known value like Spy Kids, and that became one of the top, Netflix movies. So performs.
That was huge. I remember that. Now, in all your films, pretty much, you're always kind of pulling so many different duties. There's directing, editing, cinematography, score. Is there something that you did on this film that isn't in the credits?
There isn't. I just, because I forget to put my name on it, and it didn't really stand out. It's just that I've always done, and it seems like a small thing, but it's a big part of it. It's at the end of the movie when you're putting all the sound together. People do the mixing. They mix the movie together, and I'm an actual mixer. I've mixed all my movies since Desperado. I actually had to join the union because they don't let you touch the mixer or director. So I've actually mixed all my movies, and I used to have my name in the credits as a mixer, but then somewhere along the line, I just forgot to add it. And I didn't realize how it's unusual. In fact, it's never done, because a mixer from John Wick movie was on my mix stage, and he was going, I've never seen a director mixing before. And I was like, really? This is how we do it in Texas. You're right, because I'm actually a mixer, because a director wouldn't be allowed to even touch the
right.
But I'm actually a mixer.
Interesting.
And he said, "Oh, it looks like you really know what you're doing. Like, you've mixed a lot of movies." No, I mix my own movies. It's very subjective. How much sound effect for the dialogue? I have my own method, and I don't have a lot of time to mix. So I'm also the mixer.
Well, that's good to know.
But I really realized how unusual that was. Like, you never see. It was blowing his mind. I'm used to seeing myself mix, but he was like, I've never seen a director mix.
Yeah, you're doing a lot. It's even more than I think a super spy parent would ever want to do. So you're pulling a lot more than that.
When you think about it, it's not because I think I'm better than other people at those jobs. They're just such subjective jobs.
Right.
Operate the camera, there might be a way to do it creatively that's technically right. Sometimes I want a different feeling. I would just go handheld sometimes, and it would just get something. So you don't know what the actor is going to do or where the camera is going to need to go. But somehow you become in sync with them, like your minds meld. And you're like right there as they're doing something. And you can't tell someone to do that because you don't know. You don't know where they're going to go. So sometimes you just do it to get a different kind of a feeling. And then you do that all the way. Like, I have to edit it. I have to start writing the music because, you kind of write the music even before you write the script. You rewrite a script, but you're rewriting it the entire time, because then the kids get there and it's like, oh, they can't say this line. They're not old enough to even form that syllable yet. We got to change the line, and let's do something that they can do really well. So everything was changing. I kept switching who said what and who did what depending on their abilities, and their abilities evolve. So real time, you're changing it to where I didn't even recognize the boy by the end. He started off saying stuff like, I don't think I can do that, because he wasn't sure. And by the end, the staff, and he can see that I can do anything. He realized he's got ultimate potential, because they grow exponentially with every challenge you throw at them daily. Their confidence just builds and builds to where they're just superhuman by the end.
You've worked on so many incredible universes, and I'm curious, do you have in the plans right now, like, to return to anything that you've done before, like Mariachi, like Boba Fett, like Alita? Do you have any intentions on planning to those worlds as of right now?
I'd love to do, because when you've created your own thing, those are the most fun to bring back because they're your own. So like Spy Kids or like a Desperado series was way ahead of its time, way back in the day. I mean, that's over 20 years old, that series. And when you're looking for a franchise to reboot, it's like, man, if you could reboot your own franchise, that's the best of all worlds. I would love to do another Alita, even though I didn't, come up with that. And so would Jim, we would love to. It was at a studio that got bought, so it was complexity over there. But yeah, maybe we can make another one. That would be fantastic. I'm trying to think what's another one. I like any of those old movies that people, if they like it, would be fun to revisit. But I'd probably spend more time on something that I actually came up with myself. So probably something that I wrote.
Definitely. Absolutely. Well, Robert, thank you so much for your time. We had such a blast this film. We can't wait for more people to watch it. Before we go, just a simple question. can we join the OSS?
Yes, you can always join the OS. We can't get out. Wait, you want to see the third brain?
Yeah, sure.
Want
We'd
to see
love to.
Yeah, up to you.
So the thumb is something I created when I was a teenager.
Wow.
And it was so tricky to see. I was just drawing my thumb, and it looked like a head, and I drew a guy kicking an eyeball around called Thumb Playing Eyeball. I won my first art. And I remember that for the time I did Spy Kids. And it was so cool to make actual toys of it. It was like trippy. The third lives.
Presence of greatness. Wow.
The thing they're all after.
Thank you again so much, Robert. Thanks for your time. Have a good one.
See you later.